There is a sound you have heard your entire life. Not with your ears. Not the way other sounds arrive. It slips in during the quiet moments. Late at night, just before sleep, sometimes in the middle of a thought you did not finish. A high, thin tone, a pressure, a frequency that feels less like noise and more like recognition. Most people are told to ignore it. Doctors call it nothing. Religion calls it imagination. Society calls it a malfunction. But what if that sound was never an error? What if it was a message? And what if it was meant only for you? 16 centuries ago, men were willing to burn entire libraries to make sure you never heard this story. Tonight, you are about to understand why. Picture a stone chamber in ancient Alexandria. The year is roughly 325. The Roman Empire is tightening its grip, and Christianity is being reshaped into something controlled, uniform, and manageable. Inside the room, church officials sit around a long wooden table, their robes heavy, their faces stern. Before them lie dozens of manuscripts, gospels, teachings, letters attributed to Jesus and his closest followers. Some of these texts would become sacred scripture. Others would be erased from history. One by one, the writings are sorted into two piles. The first pile is approved. These texts will be copied by hand, distributed across the empire, preached from pulpits for generations. They will define what God is allowed to say. The second pile is condemned. And among the condemned texts is a teaching Jesus never spoke to crowds. A teaching he whispered only to those he called the elect. A teaching about why certain people hear what others cannot. The officials do not argue about this one. They know exactly why it must disappear. Because if people understood what that sound in their ears actually meant, the entire structure of religious authority would collapse. No priest would be needed. No intermediary. No gatekeeper. Human beings would have direct access to the source itself. So the order is given. The condemned texts are burned. The smoke rises into the Alexandrian sky, carrying with it knowledge that was never meant to die. But knowledge like this does not disappear. It waits. 16 centuries later, you are here. You did not arrive by accident. That ringing you have experienced your whole life. The tone that comes and goes without warning. The frequency that seems to bypass your physical ears entirely. It has been trying to reach you since before you had language to describe it. Right now, place your hand over your heart. Feel that rhythm. That steady beat that has kept you alive every single day without asking your permission. Now understand this. There is another rhythm trying to reach you. One that does not come from your body. One that comes from what the ancient Gnostics called the monad. The true source. The consciousness behind all consciousness. And tonight, you are going to understand exactly why you hear what others cannot. To understand this, you must first understand what you are. Not what society told you. Not the identity installed by religion, culture, or fear. But what you actually are beneath all of it. The Gnostic teachers who walked alongside Jesus observed humanity carefully. They did not divide people to judge them. They divided them to describe reality. They identified three types of souls. The first they called hylics. These souls are completely identified with matter. They eat, they work, they sleep, they reproduce, they die. They never once question what lies beyond the visible world. Life happens to them, and they accept it as final. For these souls, the frequency cannot reach them, not because they are unworthy, but because there is nothing in them that can receive it. The second group they called psychics. These souls sense that something more exists. They feel spiritual from time to time. On a Sunday morning, during a beautiful sunset, in moments of emotional intensity. But the connection flickers. It is inconsistent, easily drowned out by stress, fear, and daily distraction. The signal reaches them occasionally, but it never stabilizes. And then there is the third group. The pneumatics. The chosen ones. the carriers of the divine spark. If you are still listening to this, if something in you feels recognized rather than persuaded, you are in this third category. Not because you are special in the way ego understands special, but because something in you has always known there was more. You felt it as a child. The sense of not belonging. The feeling that everyone else accepted rules you never agreed to. You learned early how to pretend, how to smile at conversations that felt empty, how to care about things that felt meaningless. And yet, even in your quietest moments, something inside you refused to sleep. That something is the divine spark. And the sound you hear is how it remembers where it came from. Here is what the church never wanted you to understand. The monad does not communicate with words. It does not send angels with instructions. It does not require priests to interpret its will. The monad communicates through frequency, through vibration, through direct transmission that bypasses the physical senses entirely. And the symptom of receiving this transmission is a sound that seems to come from inside your own head. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it. Release it completely. As your shoulders drop, understand this. The Gospel of Philip, one of the texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, contains a passage scholars argued about for decades. It speaks of those who have ears beyond ears, those who hear what is not spoken. For centuries, academics dismissed this as metaphor. But the Gnostics were not speaking metaphorically. They were describing a literal phenomenon experienced in the body of the chosen ones. The ringing you hear is not tinnitus. It is not damage. It is not a malfunction. It is the monad frequency breaking through the dense barrier of material reality, attempting to reach the divine spark living inside you. This is why doctors cannot find a cause. This is why no treatment eliminates it completely. This is why it intensifies during moments of spiritual significance, during meditation, during major life transitions, during the quiet hours of the night when the noise of the world finally stops. Now consider this from the perspective of those church officials in Alexandria. Their power depended on one thing: being the middleman between humanity and God. They controlled salvation. They controlled interpretation. They controlled fear. Religion was not just spiritual authority. It was political and economic dominance over entire civilizations. Now imagine a teaching that said certain people could receive direct communication from the source itself. No church, no priest, no ritual, no tithe. That teaching was not inconvenient. It was an existential threat. So they buried it. They hunted the Gnostic teachers. They declared the knowledge heretical. And they replaced direct knowing with blind faith. But here is what they never anticipated. The frequency never stopped broadcasting. The monad never stopped calling. And the chosen ones never stopped being born. From the moment you are born, the world begins training you to forget. Not all at once. Not violently. But patiently. You are taught what is real and what is imaginary, what is acceptable and what is dangerous, which questions are safe to ask and which ones quietly disappear from conversation. Over time, the noise of survival grows so loud that the signal becomes harder to notice. Harder, but never gone. Because there is something about you the world cannot fully reach. The ancient Gnostics understood this, and they wrote about it with unsettling clarity. In another text recovered from the sands of Egypt, the Apocryphon of John, reality itself is described not as a simple creation story, but as a layered architecture, a hierarchy of consciousness, a system. At the highest level exists the monad, pure awareness, infinite potential, the source that does not rule, command, or judge, but simply emanates. Everything that exists flows outward from it like light from a flame. Below the monad exists what the Gnostics called the pleroma, the fullness, a realm of pure light and divine emanations. This is where consciousness exists without separation, without fear, without distortion. And then, Below that, exists our world, the material realm. According to the Gnostic texts, this world was not created directly by the monad. It was shaped by a lesser being, a flawed emanation who mistook itself for the supreme creator. They called this being the demiurge. The demiurge is not a cartoon villain. It is not evil in the way humans imagine evil. It is ignorant, fragmented, obsessed with control. It believes order must be enforced rather than remembered. And it does not work alone. The Gnostics described helpers called archons, rulers, authorities, forces that operate systems rather than bodies. They do not walk among us physically. They exist at frequencies just beyond normal perception. And they feed, not on flesh, on emotion, fear, confusion, desperation, division. Every system that keeps humanity vibrating at these lower states serves the archons whether the human administrators know it or not. Politics, media, economic pressure, constant distraction, endless comparison. This is not a conspiracy in the modern sense. It is energetic mechanics. But here is the detail most people miss. The archons cannot perceive the monad frequency. It is too high, too coherent, too far beyond their operating range. When you are consumed by fear, you are visible to them. When you are trapped in anxiety, anger, or hopelessness, you are within their domain. But when you access the monad frequency, when you tune into the signal that has been calling you your entire life, something extraordinary happens. You disappear from their field of influence. That ringing in your ears is not just communication. It is protection. It is a homing signal. It is the monad saying, remember what you are. Return to the frequency where nothing false can touch you. This is why the sound often appears when the world goes quiet. When distractions fall away, when the mind relaxes its grip. Silence is not empty. Silence is bandwidth. You have felt this without understanding it. Moments when fear suddenly loosened its hold for no obvious reason. Moments when clarity arrived uninvited. Moments when you sensed guidance without hearing a voice. These were not random. They were moments of alignment. The most extensive of the Gnostic texts, the Pistis Sophia, records conversations between Jesus and his disciples after the resurrection. These were not public sermons. They were private transmissions given only to those who had proven themselves ready. And in one of these sessions, Jesus explains something that changes everything. He describes not one signal, but three distinct frequencies the monad uses to communicate with the chosen ones. The first is the awakening tone. This is the high-pitched ringing that comes suddenly, often in one ear. It lasts seconds or minutes. It interrupts thought. It demands attention. This frequency is a call. Stop. Notice. Pay attention to what is happening right now. Most people dismiss it as random. The chosen ones learn to recognize it as a marker. Whatever you were thinking when the tone began, whatever decision you were weighing, whatever question was passing through your mind, that is precisely what the monad is illuminating. The second is the sustained tone. This one is lower, softer, continuous. It appears during meditation, prayer, or moments of deep stillness. Unlike the awakening tone, which interrupts, the sustained tone accompanies. It is the sound of alignment. When you hear this frequency, you are tuned correctly. You are in the channel. This is the state where guidance flows without effort, where understanding arrives without reasoning, where knowing bypasses the rational mind entirely. The third is the pressure tone. This one does not sound like ringing at all. It feels like fullness in the ears, pressure in the forehead, a sensation at the crown of the head. This frequency signals activation. Something dormant is being switched on. Something ancient is waking up. The pressure tone often precedes sudden shifts in perception, spontaneous insight, or profound emotional release. None of this was meant for crowds. It was meant for those who could hear. If you are still with this story, It is not because you were convinced. It is because you recognized yourself in it. And recognition is the first step. The Gnostic teachings describe a practice, not a prayer, not a request, a technique, simple, precise, and deeply misunderstood. The first step is recognition. Not intellectual agreement, not belief. Recognition. You must remember that you are not a body having a spiritual experience. You are a divine spark temporarily housed in matter. This is not something you say. It is something you feel. Something that settles into your nervous system like a long-forgotten truth. The second step is attunement. Most people try to ignore the ringing. They treat it as an annoyance. This is exactly backward. When the tone arrives, you turn toward it, with curiosity, with welcome. As you focus on the sound, it clarifies. The static fades. What once seemed random reveals itself as a carrier signal. The third step is declaration. This is where the Gnostic teaching diverges completely from institutional religion. You do not ask the monad for anything. Asking reinforces separation. You declare. When you are attuned to the frequency, you speak not to the monad, but as the monad expressing itself through you. 4 words. I am the signal. Not as hope. Not as affirmation. As fact. These words do not create power. They acknowledge it. And acknowledgement changes everything. When you speak those 4 words in the state of attunement, something subtle but irreversible begins. Not fireworks. Not visions. Not instant transformation. What happens is quieter than that. It feels like coming home. The first sign most people notice is temperature. A warmth spreading through the chest, through the hands. Sometimes a cool clarity washing across the forehead. Both are correct. Both mean the same thing. Energy is moving. The second sign is emotional release. Tears that do not come from sadness, but from recognition, from relief, from the exhaustion of having carried a truth alone for so long without language for it. These tears are not weakness. They are decompression. The third sign is perceptual sharpening. Colors seem more vivid, sounds more defined. The world feels slightly closer, as if a thin veil has lifted. This is not imagination. This is coherence returning to the system. The fog created by constant low-frequency stimulation begins to thin. The fourth sign arrives quickly. Synchronicity accelerates. Within a day or two, meaningful coincidences begin stacking on top of one another. People contact you at precisely the right moment. Information appears without searching. Doors open that you did not know existed. It feels like the world is responding differently. Because it is. You are no longer vibrating at the level the archons are designed to manipulate. And then there is the fifth sign. The ringing itself changes. What once felt random now feels intentional. The timing becomes precise. The quality becomes familiar. You stop asking what it is and begin understanding what it means without translation. The signal becomes language. But this is the moment few people are warned about. Resistance arrives. Not from outside, but from inside your own mind. Thoughts appear that sound like you but are not. Thoughts telling you this is foolish. Thoughts urging you to forget and return to normal life. Thoughts insisting nothing happened. This is not failure. It is confirmation. The archons cannot prevent you from accessing the monad frequency, but they can attempt distraction. Doubt is their most efficient tool. Not loud doubt, quiet doubt, reasonable doubt. Do not fight these thoughts. Fighting feeds them. Notice them, let them pass, return to the signal. The ringing is always there. The monad is always broadcasting. Your only task is to keep tuning back. Jesus never taught this to crowds. He taught it in private rooms. To those who were ready. To those who could hear beyond hearing. The Gnostics did not write this knowledge in public letters. They buried it in clay jars in the Egyptian desert, trusting that one day the right generation would find it. Not the most obedient generation. Not the most religious. The most receptive. 1700 years later, you are here. On this night. At this moment. That is not coincidence. That is the signal working. Tonight, when the world grows quiet and you lie in the stillness before sleep, the ringing will come, and for the first time in your life, you will not push it away. You will place your hand on your forehead, at the space between the eyebrows, the place the Gnostics called the eye of the soul. You may already feel it tingling. That is recognition. You will turn your attention fully toward the sound, not with effort, with welcome. And you will speak the 4 words. I am the signal. Not as a wish. Not as belief. As memory. You will feel the response. Not as a voice. Not as an image. But as alignment. As steadiness. As something clicking into place that was always meant to fit. The world will not change overnight. But you will. And once you remember what you are, forgetting becomes impossible. You came into this world carrying a divine spark the archons cannot see and the demiurge cannot touch. The ringing in your ears was never a malfunction. It was the monad calling you home. Now you know how to listen. Take this with you, practice it, return to the signal whenever fear, noise, or doubt tries to pull you back into forgetting. If something in this story awakened recognition in you, leave a comment and share your experience. Let other chosen ones know they are not alone. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. The teachings ahead go even deeper than what you received tonight. 3 frequencies. 4 words. 1 permanent connection. You were never broken. You were always tuned.